We're told that the burdens of war in Libya would be shared by a coalition. But the United States is providing the bulk of the money, the armaments, and the organizational leadership. We know that the war has already cost our nation upwards of $600 million, and we're told that the long-term expenses could go much, much further. We're looking at spending additional billions of dollars in Libya at a time when we can't even take care of our people here at home. We're told that the President has legal authority for this war under United Nations Security Council Resolution 1973. But this resolution specifically does not authorize any ground elements. Furthermore, the administration exceeded the mandate of the resolution by providing the rebels with air cover. Thus, the war against Libya violated our Constitution and has even violated the very authority which the administration claimed was sufficient to take our country to war. We're told that the Gaddafi regime has been illegitimate for 4 decades. But we're not told that in 2003, the U.S. dropped sanctions against Libya. We're not told that Gaddafi, in an effort to ingratiate himself with the West in general, and with America specifically, accepted a market-based economic program led by the very harsh structural adjustment remedies of the IMF and the World Bank. This led to the wholesale privatization of estate enterprises, contributing to unemployment in Libya rising to over 20%. CNN reported on December 19, 2003, that Libya acknowledged having a nuclear program, pledged to destroy weapons of mass destruction, and pledged to allow international inspections. This was a decision which President George W. Bush has praised, saying Gaddafi's actions, quote, made our country and our world safer, unquote. We're told that Gaddafi is in breach of the UN Security Council resolutions, but now our own Secretary of State is reportedly considering arming the rebels, an act which would be a breach of the United Nations Security Council resolution, which established an arms embargo. We are told we went to war at the request of and with the support of the Arab League. But the Secretary General of the Arab League, Amir Moussa, began asking questions immediately after the imposition of the no-fly zone, stating that what was happening in Libya, and I quote, differs from the aim of imposing a no-fly zone. What we want is the protection of civilians and not the shelling of civilians, unquote. Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, has also expressed concern over the protection of civilians, even as Allied bombing continued during the International Conference on Libya in England this week, stating that the UN, and this is a quote, continues to receive deeply disturbing reports about the lack of protection of civilians, including various abuses of human rights by the parties to the conflict. He was alluding to possible human rights abuses by Libyan rebel forces. Even the Secretary General of NATO, an organization which the United States founded and generally controls, expressed concern, saying, quote, "We're not in Libya to arm people, but to protect people," unquote. So I ask, is this truly a humanitarian intervention? What is humanitarian about providing to one side of the conflict the ability to wage war against the other side of a conflict, which will inevitably trigger a civil war, making all of Libya a graveyard? The administration has told us, incredibly, they don't really know who the rebels are, but they're considering arming them nonetheless. The fact that they're even thinking about arming these rebels makes one think the administration knows exactly who the rebels are. While a variety of individuals and institutions may comprise the so-called opposition in Libya, in fact, one of the most significant organizations is the National Front for the Salvation of Libya, along with its military arm, the Libyan National Army. It was the National Front's call for opposition to the Gaddafi regime in February which was a catalyst of the conflict, which precipitated the humanitarian crisis which is now used to justify armed intervention. But I ask, Mr. Speaker, how spontaneous was this rebellion? The Congressional Research Service in 1987 analyzed the Libyan opposition. Here's what the Congressional Research Service wrote, and I quote, "Over 20 opposition groups exist outside Libya. The most important in 1987 was the National Front, formed in October 1981. This National Front claimed responsibility for a daring attack on Gaddafi's headquarters at Bab al-Azizia on May 8, 1984. Although the coup failed and Gaddafi escaped unscathed, dissident groups claimed that some 80 Libyans, Cubans, and East Germans perished," unquote. Significantly, the CRS cited various sources as early as 1984 which claimed, and I quote, "The United States Central Intelligence Agency trained and supported the National Front before and after the May 8th operation." Now, by October 31st, 1996, according to a BBC translation of Al Hayat, an Arabic journal in London, a Colonel Khalifa Hiftar, who was leader of this Libyan National Liberation Army, the armed wing of the National Front, he was quoted as saying, "Force is the only effective method for dealing with Gaddafi." Now follow me to